everyone, welcome. I'm Faith, editor-in-chief of Kitchn, and welcome back to Thanksgiving Food Fest. 5 nights, 5 chefs, 5 very distinct takes on Thanksgiving. I'm so excited to introduce you to Shanika Graham-White, if you're not already one of her many fans. She's a self-taught cook and a cookbook author. She's author of Orchids and Sweet Tea, plant-forward recipes with Jamaican flavors and Southern charm. And she's going to be bringing us a plant-based menu that I think just shows all the glorious ways that a plant-based Thanksgiving menu can feel and taste and show off vegetables. She does the most amazing vegan pumpkin pie that I can hardly wait for you guys to see. And of course, as you watch us here, we are also in the chat right next to the video. Shanika is there. She would love to hear your questions, anything about her menu, about going plant-based, about making your Thanksgiving a little more plant-friendly. Please feel free to jump right into the chat and ask her anything you like. And of course, none of this would be possible without Anthro Living, Holland House, Idaho Potatoes, and Ninja Foodie Smart Lid. We're very grateful to them for helping us bring Shanika Graham-White's plant-based Thanksgiving to you tonight.
Hi guys, I'm Shanika Graham-White and I'm a cookbook author, food blogger, and recipe developer behind Orchids and Sweet Tea, a food and lifestyle blog. This is the Kitchn's Thanksgiving Food Fest. This year's Thanksgiving menu is going to include butternut squash and sweet potato shepherd's pie, apple crostinis, a fall harvest salad, pear mocktail, and then topped off with a vegan pumpkin pie. I have this kind of knack for flavor and texture. And when it comes to inviting meat eaters to any plant-based dinner that I do, I just really love kind of like tricking my family members in a sense. So my mom is more receptive towards plant-based, but my dad is not because he's like really into traditional Jamaican foods. So I actually love making like vegan dishes where he doesn't even realize it's vegan until after the fact. Growing up in a Jamaican household, for Thanksgiving, they kind of Americanized it a bit, but they don't eat turkey, so that wasn't like the main meat for them. They did more of the traditional ham, and they kind of mixed in like traditional Jamaican dishes such as like rice and peas, oxtails. It was kind of like a mixture of like the Americanized version of Thanksgiving and then just traditional Jamaican recipes. I started eating a plant-based diet because after having my son, postpartum, my body went through a lot of changes. This definitely changed my relationship with food because I grew up a picky eater. Maybe 5 things were like what I ate. My tip is I actually love meal prepping, so I would do a couple of the sweet potatoes and maybe 1 or 2 butternut squashes, peel them, cube them, and then store them in like Ziploc bags. You can kind of freeze them longer if you're not going to use them right away, and then kind of like separate it and then refrigerate whichever ones you're going to use. And then you might add it to like your salad, or you might add it to another dish. And I'm letting that kind of preheat. The butternut squash and sweet potato shepherd's pie. It's kind of like a take on meat over mashed potatoes, but in reverse. When it comes to traditional shepherd's pie, it's usually a meat base at the bottom, and then you have some sort of mashed potatoes at the top. For me personally, I just love butternut squash and sweet potato, and I just love the balance between sweet and savory, so I chose to use that as my topping. 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I don't really measure, guys, but I kind of can eye it. But if you need a measuring spoon, feel free. And saute my minced garlic a bit. Then after that, you're gonna add in your veggies, chopped carrots, which I'm gonna do first. I have chopped onions, and I give it like 1 to 2 minutes. Peas and corn. Oops. If my dog was out here, he would definitely grab that really quickly. A few pinches of salt. I have Cajun seasoning here, and I usually use the entire thing. And then you're gonna add in your tomato paste, veggie broth. That's gonna also help the tomato paste to kind of become really smooth. There might be a misconception that because it's a plant-based menu, there's just gonna be loads of sides. But now with all the plant-based meat options that are available, it's so much easier to create main dishes. The shepherd pie to me is the centerpiece of this meal just because of the bold flavors, and I think the play on the sweet and savory. And then the fact that it's just so hearty. I just feel like it's a great substitute for your main roasts or your ham or your turkey. That's usually for traditional Thanksgiving meals. The meat crumbles, usually I add that in when I'm sauteing my veggies, but no worries, you can always just add it in. It's not gonna ruin the dish or anything. Just add it in with your sauce, and that'll also help thicken it a bit too. I actually like using Gardeins. A lot of their things are made out of peas, sometimes lentils, but it really does taste close to ground beef or turkey. So once you've chopped the butternut squash and the sweet potatoes, you're gonna toss in all your seasonings together. First, you start off with a little bit of olive oil and do garlic powder, a few pinches of black pepper, dried parsley, and then dry oregano. So then you're just tossing them until everything is coated. Get your bowl, go over to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, and just toss them on. Spread them around so that they're on an even layer. Toss them in the oven, and then you just let them roast and let the magic happen. Smells like sweet potatoes and butternut squash are ready. Nice. It should just be really just a few mashes. Place it on top of your meat and veggies. Keep it more centered, especially when you're baking and you want to see it bubbling. We all know that the holidays are super busy, and you'll probably be making a ton of things that more than your hands can count. I love actually prepping each ingredient separately, put them in an airtight container, store them in the refrigerator. So then the morning of, it's literally just putting your meat base back in the skillet and then spreading over the mashed, roasted potatoes and butternut squash. And then you put it in the oven and that's it. The top should be golden and the sides should be bubbling. I'm intrigued to know what you guys like, so be sure to leave in the chat your favorite simple recipe that you like making for Thanksgiving. The next recipe we're doing today is apple crostinis. This is like a simple, savory and sweet dish that I love. The main base of it is the vegan cream cheese, which is super easy, and it's like 5 to 6 ingredients, everything in a blender. Soaked cashews, grapeseed oil, apple cider vinegar, a little bit of salt, freshly squeezed lemon juice. You just add in your liquid. Once it's blended, you're literally just gonna check to see if it's smooth, and you still want it to be thick, but smooth like cream cheese. Then you're just gonna get your bread. I had mine pre-toasted. Dollop a few, maybe 1 to 2 tablespoons of your vegan cream cheese. And then you have your spiced apples that I already had pre-made. If you want to be a little fancy, you can add fresh herbs. There you have it, apple crostinis. fall harvest salad, one of my favorites. So when it comes to salads, honestly, I have a love-hate relationship just because a lot of salads are generally the same. So for me, this salad without meat is perfect because it has so many different bold flavors. So to start, you'll just need a few bunches of curly kale, and then you just destem them and then kind of shred them into bite-sized pieces. I love the balance between savory and sweet. This is perfect for Thanksgiving. First, you're gonna start by roasting your apples and your nuts. So you just simply put all your sliced apples in a bowl, ground cinnamon, your nutmeg, allspice, and then your maple syrup. And then you're just gonna transfer everything over to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. I like to separate it just because it's easier to style the salad, personally. But if you did want to add the maple syrup and the spices to your nuts, that's absolutely fine as well. You can actually roast twice as much because I'm actually gonna use the roasted apples later on in the pear and apple mocktail. You're just gonna place your nuts in each corner. Then you're gonna toss everything in the oven and let the oven work its magic. The next part of the salad is the best part, and that is this lemon garlic dressing. It's super easy, all dairy-free, and personally, I feel like it works perfectly with this fall harvest salad because it plays really nicely on the sweetness from the apples and the nuttiness from the nuts being toasted. I'm gonna start with vegan mayo. Then you're gonna add in your dairy-free milk. Your minced garlic. Garlic powder for a little bit of extra garlicky flavor. Pepper. A bit of salt. And then dry parsley. And last but not least, you add in your lemon juice and literally just whisk away. Then once all of it is combined, I love to add my dressing to a gravy boat. Pour it in, and then I just refrigerate it until I'm ready to use. An easy lemon garlic dressing. It's time to assemble our salad. If you're creating a plant-based menu for the first time, I definitely suggest taking your time and scoping the land in terms of recipes, in terms of ingredients. Honestly, I just feel like experimenting and just taking your time, creating a list, seeing the things that you like, and then adding to that, that will definitely help you create a really widespread plant-based menu. The maple syrup kind of runs off onto the nuts, so it actually gives them kind of like a caramelized taste and texture, which is great. So they might be initially a little hard to come off the pan, but trust me, it's worth the bite. Last but not least, you're gonna add in a few sprinkles of pumpkin seeds. And again, I just like adding them in because it's just a nice crunch to the salad. For me, when it came to this fall harvest, I just felt like it needed to have a lot of the autumn feel, but also like pops of color here and there. That's like an indicator of like a lot of flavor. So that's kind of why I chose a lot of these ingredients to go together. For everyone watching, I'd love to know what's your favorite Thanksgiving salad, and also what salad you'll be making this year. Be sure to leave that in the chat. When it comes to Thanksgiving, for me personally, I'm all about the drinks. I think that growing up when we had gatherings, it was mostly about the drinks. And while a lot of the drinks were alcoholic, I like to create mocktails, which you can spruce up and turn into a cocktail. The drink for today is actually a roasted apple pear mocktail. For this drink, as I mentioned before, when we were roasting the apples for the salad, you actually could have made extra apples so that you can have it in this mocktail. So this is actually comprised of the roasted apples, and you're basically mulling them in water. So to mull it, I usually just put them in a bowl, add the water, and then kind of crush it a bit until it's like into smaller bits and pieces. Then you'll just add your ice to your glasses. Then you'll add the mulled fruit on top. You want to fill it maybe about halfway or so. And then after that, you're gonna top it with ginger beer. So I do it about 3/4 of the way because I like to add in fresh apple slices and roasted pear. And then just to garnish, I have fresh sliced apples. And I like to be generous, so I stuff them as much as it can hold. And then you top it off with these beautifully roasted pears. And I just kind of gently place it in the glass. But believe it or not, when you add your roasted pears in, it actually infuses in the liquid, and it'll be an extra punch. Then, last but not least, you add a sprig or two of rosemary, tuck it in like so. I know that a lot of people sometimes start their gathering or their party with drinks, so you can either serve this in the beginning or towards the end or both, depending on your preference. You can never have too many mocktails. Today's dessert is going to be vegan pumpkin pie, and my version adds a bit of praline on top as a topping, just as a special treat. It's basically just pecans kind of tossed in like a caramelized sauce. So for me, I personally make a vegan version, which is simple, just having toasted pecans, and then I just add a bit of canned coconut milk, add a little bit of maple syrup, pinches of cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, and then stir everything together, and it just caramelizes. Vegan pumpkin pie, it definitely reminds me of my childhood when my grandmother used to make sweet potato pie. She used to make it with a lot of marshmallows, and it was really warm and cozy and comforting, so I feel like that's what I get when I eat this pumpkin pie. When it comes to pies, especially ones that have custard, it's best that you make it at least the day before so that you can refrigerate it and it really hardens, so when you get a nice slice, it'll be perfect. Just like with cake, it's best to have a warm knife because that allows it to come out really clean and sharp. So usually I'll do that by having a warm, damp paper towel, and then I'll just simply wipe it once or twice. Then you get a pie server and you lift a dollop or so of my praline sauce. Feel free to add as much as you'd like. And then to top it all off, I love to use a bit of Cocoa Whip. Time for my favorite part, trying it. Perfect. Creamy, full of spices. Thank you guys for joining us at Thanksgiving Food Fest. It was such a pleasure chatting with you guys throughout the entire night. If you have any last-minute questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the chat and I will answer them for you. Serving a vegetarian Thanksgiving allows me to show people that you can actually turn old favorites into new ones. And you don't have to be a professionally trained chef to really create dynamic foods. You just have to experiment.
That was so fabulous. I loved seeing how Shanika's whole beautiful table came together. It was incredibly inspiring, and I think really shows how delicious a plant-based Thanksgiving can be. We're so grateful to Anthro Living, Holland House, Idaho Potatoes, and Ninja Foodie Smart Lid. Thank you again for coming tonight, for participating in our chat. We will see you back here tomorrow night for Alexander Smalls and his Southern Thanksgiving menu. It's gonna be such a treat. And before you leave, there's more. We have our Thanksgiving Food Fest after party happening right now on Instagram. I'll see you there.